and it brought them out of debt. And unlike General Motors and Chrysler, Ford did not take a bailout from the government in 2008-9. And he was the CEO that pulled that off. And what he talked about is the number one thing for him as a CEO and to lead companies into that kind of profitability is focus on culture. Culture. He said it is number one. And it was right after that, on Saturday, that I heard a gentleman from the Milliken Corporation. It's the only major textile industry left in the United States. And they're extremely profitable and very successful. What are you talking about? He said, number one, Milliken, the reason they survive and they're thriving is the focus they put on culture. I just want to put that. So that's what we do as well in partnership with school districts. So I want to stop a second and ask, you all took the time to come out here tonight. I know you don't know everything that's going on. Your superintendent talked a little bit about it. You probably heard something, but anyone want to say anything about what their expectations are for the evening? You don't want to share it? Okay, and some knowledge. That's really probably a great thing to do when you come here and say, so learn what's going on. You don't knowledge yet. Okay. Okay, it's probably not going to be a forum for that specifically, but in general, what we're doing would be building the kind of climate and environment, or that's what we'll be working on, that would ultimately address that, but not specifically tonight. Anyone else? Okay. So here's our agenda. What we're being talking about. Basically, these bullets here are questions that I'm going to be asking you all to respond to during the course of the evening. And, just a couple things here. I'm going to ask you to talk to your neighbors in answering some of our questions if you wish to. Focus on the learners. This is about kids. And if you don't mind muting your cell phone, I'm going to double check mine here in a second to make sure I do that. And most important is to dream big. As Dr. Scott said, this is about designing the direction of the district, the future of the district. Where are you guys going strategically? And so, as I always say, the only limit you have on yourself is yourself. So dream big, think big. So this is our process. The first was to collaborate and form a relationship, which we've done through the board. And then we're at the engage phase now, which is inviting the public to participate, respond to a series of questions through this summit, through focus groups, and there's individuals in the community who represent segments of the community, such as parents or teachers or administrators or business leaders, who will come together in homogeneous groups to talk about the questions that we're asking, that we're collecting, that will be eventually used by a design team. And also a survey has been launched with the same questions. So there's several ways that people can participate. And that's where we're at now. Our next step after this will be to go into the design phase. And actually that phase will encompass both design, create, and lead. And at those phases, we'll get a representative group of the community, community members, staff, and students to work over the course of 6 days to create the products around the strategic design. This is a graph of our timeline. You can see where we're at right now in the collaborate and engage portion. Our next step in November, December in design and create, and then we'll finish in January with lead. These are our guiding principles for engage to learn. Number one, in my mind, the most important is to be student focused. Put students first, but also really just as important, and this is the main reason I work with Engage. I believe strongly in involving the community in collaborating to decide the future of school districts. I think we're stronger public school systems are stronger when the community is engaged. And the fact that I'm here is evidence that that's a belief here in Bay City. So be community-based, align what we do, use design thinking, backward design, which I'm going to talk about more in a little bit. And then finally, if it's not actual, it doesn't matter. So we always end up with producing strong action statements. So, a group of people here, fine young people, mostly from the high school, there are a couple of middle school students. And we always believe in student voice. We think it's important. It's a major element of what we do with Engage to Learn. I have to say that when I was superintendent of schools, we started involving our students in getting their thoughts and ideas around the things that we're doing. And the more we did that, the more we asked ourselves the question, why don't we do it more? And we just kept expanding the role of students in our work. Ultimately, it's about them. But we found that they're eloquent, they're intelligent, and they also demonstrate great leadership if we give them the opportunity. So we always ask them to come forward and sit on a panel. I've got several questions to ask them related to their experience at school. So I ask them to be honest. I don't think they're intimidated at all, but you're sitting here listening to them. And I know that you're supportive of what they have to say. So they have the questions, but I'm going to ask them these questions. I've asked. They don't all need to respond to every question, but we want the majority to respond to each one. So, you guys ready? Here's the first question. What are your hopes for your future, and what do you want to be able to be doing 10 years from now? You're good.
Oh, great. Hello, I'm Tim. Being pulled off the street or being put in front of a group of people, you're going to be nervous, but forgive me if I stutter. So the first question I have in front of you: what are your hopes for your future? What do you want to be able to be doing 10 years from now? Now, everyone up here has different dreams. They have different goals. My personal goal is I want to go to the Army. I want to serve 8 years and maybe go to college after that. Have my tuition paid and get the 3 hours of college. I want to take advantage of what I can, and maybe when I do come back, it'll be a different school. It'll be different from what I've seen so far. And that's my future. You guys got a future?
Yeah, they all have a future, right? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm an 8th grader at the junior high, and for a couple years now, I've been thinking that my dream job is that I want to be a lawyer. And I hope that going to BCISD junior high and the high school that I can finish college and pursue my dream of being a lawyer.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Somebody else?
Okay. My name is Matthew. I'm a senior at Bay City High School. My hopes for the future and what I want to be able to be doing in 10 years from now. Right out of high school, I'm going to be going into phlebotomy. And then after that, I'm going to try to be a paramedic. Because my mom works at the hospital and she'd like me to work there too. And so 10 years from now, I hope to be doing that and making my mom proud.
Very good.
Hello, my name is Gemma. I am a senior at BCISD High School, and I went to attend University of Texas at Austin and study classical guitar performance. It's because music it's been part of my life, and that's what I do.
Excellent.
Hello, my name is Nathan. I'm a sophomore at Bay City High School. Right now, I'm really just trying to make it. But after I got out of high school, I want to go into the medical field, maybe paramedic, like my grandma, or culinary game, because I love doing that ever since I was young.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Pablo Grosto. I'm a senior at the high school.
My hopes for the future is I want to go to the University of Texas at Austin, and I want to major in psychology. And 10 years from now, I hope to be practicing psychology. I want to work towards a doctorate and just have a life, a home, stuff like that.
Excellent. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a student at BCISD, and 10 years from now, I hope to be majoring in neuroscience, and I hope that the junior and the high school will provide classes for me to be able to do so, and I hope to be very successful.
Very good. Thank you. Let's go to the next question. What are the ways that you learn best?
Over the years that I've been learning at school, I've learned that the best way that I learn is individually. I've just never gotten to grab a hold of information when I work in groups. And I need someone to be able to explain it to me in the way that I can understand.
Okay,
Sounds like that.
go ahead.
It was awesome. I've learned, of course, being 15 years old, you sort of learn a lot, and of course, you're going to keep learning. I've learned about myself that I learn it best when I try it myself, and then someone else also shows me. I do best work. Because when you're working in a group, everyone has their certain jobs, but if you're taking them all on, it's your way. It's how you do it. Because you feel it's the way you do it, it's more productive, and that's how I feel with it. Is it good?
All right. Go ahead. Yeah, you know it.
I would say me learning the best I've found is individually and more of I'm given the information and I roll with it and I know and memorize the rest of it. And hands-on is where I'm at. So whenever I'm in science labs, I like labs, I do great things. That's the best thing.
So you said you like hands-on learning. Okay.
Sorry about the phone. It's some weird.
It happens to everybody.
Well, the best way I learn, I'm not good in a group because most people in a group like sit around and not do anything like that, not doing all the work. But I'm a very individual learner. I'm hands-on like Damien, and I I like to have a teacher actually explain things to me. I don't like to just sit there and read the directions kind of thing. And that's how I learn.
The best way for me to learn is by visualizing it, the teacher showing us how to do it, um, giving me like examples on how to work the problem out and helping me understand it the best way I can by, just explaining it to where, you know, like a 13-year-old would know how to do it, like, and just being patient if they're not getting the point across, if they're not understanding it. I learn best individually. I don't really like group work because, there's those people that depend on the smarter kid to do the work. And if they never learn how to do it themselves, then you're never going to be able to know how to do it the right way. And that's how I learned that.
Okay.
I find personally, I like it more hands-on learning. The teacher does things on the board. I like to also do it on the paper and have the teacher come over and show me if I've done something wrong, things like that. I do like working in a group. I like the feedback from other people and things like that. One thing to take away from most of this is that all of us are gonna have very different learning strategies, abilities. They're not all gonna be completely the same. It's just like one thing I know.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I like learning visually. It helps me to look at something and try to figure out how it works. And that's why also I like graphic design because I like making stuff so people can see it and understand it. I also think that teachers are really important to teach us, but I also really like to do my research apart from school so I can get like a better understanding of what I learned.
All right. Let's go to the next question. What are the things that make you interested in school?
That's my fault, sorry. What are the things that make you interested in school? Well, as you know, we all go to school with different kids, and every kid doesn't like to be in that boring classroom that they don't know anyone and they have to stare at a whiteboard that's being written on. And I'm one of those kids, I didn't like that. But to have a friend there with you, to going through the same thing, makes you feel sort of less alone and more united with a lot of the other kids, because you know that you're going through that, but they're also going through that. It's a process you go through together with the students. And it's not necessarily all the learning and all the classes that made me want to go to school. Of course, that played a part, but also it was to see my friends that I didn't normally see outside of school. It was to be with those people that I felt I connected with. So that's what sort of made me most interested to go.
All right. Good. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I like going to school because when you learn new things, you can use them to debate and argue with other people over things. I also like being there with my friends because you feel older and you feel more grown up with all of the people that do the same thing as you. And you feel just like adults when you're there at your work. And I like having a schedule. I just like the idea of having our schedule down on paper and times that we switch to different classes because it gets us ready for the real world and how to use time management.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I like going to school is I love challenges myself. As long as the person I'm getting the challenge from is understanding or not really strict about it, I love to challenge myself. And well, I like to be able to think that I'm actually going out in the world and think that I'm getting something done rather than just sitting down and doing nothing. So school makes me feel like I'm doing something rather than just sitting playing games and just, yeah.
I think the feeling of getting things done in order to achieve a greater goal, to pass my classes and keep learning every day, to graduate and then go to college and just keep getting better at what I do. That's what it motivates me a lot.
Good. You guys seem to be a highly motivated group of people, I have to say. Yes.
What are the things that make me interested in school? I am mostly interested in kind of like Tim, coming and seeing people that I don't usually get to see. But I also like knowing that I don't have to go through school alone with other people, and I get to do it with other people. And I like to learn new things because I don't want to be left behind. I would like to know as much as I possibly can. That way, if I want to go into a certain career, like being a paramedic, if that doesn't work out for me, I'll always have some knowledge on a different subject. So I can go to a different job. And that's what interests me about school.
One of the things that interests me in school is our option for extracurricular, like our high school credits that we get to take early so that we can graduate early and maybe get like a few couple years to go to maybe junior college if we really wanted to. And another thing is the arts program, which gives us another idea of what we could do if, one of the things that we wanted to do doesn't really work out. We could always, have choir to back us up, or band, like play an instrument, or work for some kind of like museum or something.
The things that make me interested in school is mostly learning new things. I love new my teacher invited me to a meeting or like a trip that I want to go on this summer, and it's going to be to Italy. It's going to be a whole night trip. That's one of the things that you can really into the new experiences, information like class, and it's really taught very quickly. But I like learning new things, and especially people. I love meeting new people. It's one of the best parts about school. All right.
I am going to skip that question in the interest of time, and let's go to talk about teachers for a minute. I don't want you to say the names, but describe your ideal teacher. What do teachers need to be doing to help you prepare for the future you want?
My ideal teacher would be someone that doesn't think that they're your friend. Your teacher is your friend, and they're there to teach you what you need to grow up in life. They should be successful and have a lot of knowledge of what they're teaching. Um, I think that teachers are kind of not treated as high as they should be, and sometimes we need to give more recognition of the work that the teachers are doing for us, putting up with annoying kids all day.
That's none of you up here, is it?
I hope not.
I didn't mean to throw you off by that comment. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
I think the teacher should also know what you want to be or what their class kind of wants to be as they grow older. So then they can give us tips of what helped them get to the place they are and what to do, what not to do, what to focus on, and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, I'm gonna go off, like, everyone in this entire room grew up in school and always had a favorite teacher every single year, And I'm not one of those people. I had one favorite teacher, but like her, they really get underappreciated. You know, they go through so much every single day through 160 to 200 kids. That's like normal classrooms. People in music, they go through probably around 300 because they have bigger rooms, they have stands. They go through all of this just to pass on their knowledge when they don't even have to do that. They could live on with their lives doing whatever they wanted to do. They could have had a dream when they were a little kid that they wanted to just do something. They went to teach it because they wanted to show little kids and us, young adults, that to do this, it's hard work. You know, and I hope that they tell kids this is how you do it. You know, they show us how to do it. They're hands-on. They can be, what's the word? You can be multiple things. They can be multiple things to help different students. What that's doing. And they can change their perspective for different students. You know, I don't really want to say an example before I'm done, but that's my opinion.
Okay, well, describe your ideal teacher, that's what we're trying to do here, your ideal teacher.
I like teachers that are more active with students rather than just handing out papers. I noticed that I like giving the instructions, but a teacher that knows a joke every now and then keeps the class away is interactive with all the students. That makes me really happy. And then teachers that can put up with other students like that and tell them have a backbone, tell them to get out, or whenever it's needed. I like that too. Teachers that know what to do.
I like it when teachers are interactive with their students, when they make activities fun, really from a textbook, because what are we really learning from the textbook if we don't know what is going on? Like if we haven't like really learned it and haven't really understood the concept of the assignment, and we can't, like we go home and we try to do it, but we can't because we don't really know what they're really trying to teach us unless we get a better understanding and making it kind of fun, but kind of the way they're teaching us to get understandable for our age group and the way they're teaching it so that we know what we're actually being taught instead of just getting a little bit of it and getting all of it.
Okay, thank you.
My ideal teacher is, I like teachers to keep things interesting. Kind of like the textbook thing. I don't like sitting there with the book the entire time. I like the teacher to be like, okay, so today we're gonna get up and we're gonna. But I also like teachers that actually care about the grade that you're giving in class. Like they're going to be like, hey, you're making a 62, and you should probably come to tutorial, something like that. Because some teachers, they'll let you fail. That's not fun. But that's my kind of teacher. I like a teacher that cares.
Go ahead.
Right, my ideal teacher is a very engaging teacher. Like they're very passionate. They love to talk about and like teach their subjects, their whatever it is they're teaching. And also a very understanding teacher. I know like kids go through a lot at home and stuff, and it's good to have a teacher who can understand those things and talk to them and help them, not just in school, but also if they need to at home and stuff like that.
All right. last question. And I'll tell you what, let's just get about 3 or 4 responses on this. So think about it. If you really have something you want to say on this, then answer it. If you're the superintendent, if you're Dr. Scott, think about systems. Systems are things like the schedule, the building, grading, food service, anything like that, transportation, changing classes. If there was something you could change that you think would be significant, what might that be? And if there's something that you really value, you want to remain the same, what would that be? Go ahead.
I really think I have a sibling that's in 3rd grade now, and last year he was already switching classes, and he was 6, turning 7, and I think that they're too old for that. The last school that I went to, we had a teacher, they had all their activities at the Wire Park, we stayed there. And I also think that you could take off some time because you wouldn't have that 4-minute passing period or anything. And in elementary school, we had restroom breaks, which really helped so that there wasn't always kids asking, can I go to the bathroom? Can I get water? And I really think teachers should understand that kids need to go to the bathroom. We have our reasons to go to the bathroom. And also, we have to fill out a lot of paperwork at the beginning of the year. And for food, you have to say your food allergies. And I have some friends that have severe peanut allergies, and they'll still give them a tray that's been touching other trays with peanut chicken or something on it. That it's not safe to have that around kids, and they should really look more into that for the safety of their students.
Okay, thank you. A couple more.
One thing that I have a big problem with a lot of the time is I live in Selkirk. I have to do a 30-minute drive every morning on the way to school. I had originally planned on riding the bus, but the bus schedule was always so weird. I always got here at right at 7:30 and immediately had to rush to class. And I had band, I was able to go to work because the buses are slow and they're that was just one real big problem I had. And then one time they didn't even let me on the bus. Apparently I didn't fill out the paperwork even though I had the day before. It was very frustrating for buses. I'm not sure completely what could be done about that though, because buses are big and expensive. And there's not a lot of experienced bus drivers. Maybe more bus drivers and more buses would help out.
Okay, one more.
I would just say more extracurricular activities, because in my case, going into music, we don't have, music free. It's something that basically college requires for, music students, so I wasn't able to get that experience. And there was, when I first got here to, Texas, because Mexico, the class was active, but then my junior year, when I was supposed to take it, they took it out. So, and also, other areas of study, more extracurricular. Yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. Listen, I appreciate you all coming tonight, and I know you're busy people, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness and your honesty here. Let's give them a big hand. Thanks a lot. You guys can go ahead and sit down. So while they're stepping away, I told you we'd be talking a little bit more about beginning using backward design. And a lot of you have heard of Stephen Covey, and he said to begin with the end in mind means to start with clear understanding of your destination, where you want to be so you can get there. And the example I used this morning was, I left yesterday for here. I live up in the Dallas area, and so I wasn't going to come down 45, so I knew I was going to use my GPS.
So I do
So,
GPS.
you know, so I could get here. I didn't know all the roads without
I
using
didn't
the
know all the
interstate.
roads without using the interstate to get me here.
Hampton Inn, Bay City. First thing said Hampton Inn, go what city? Go Bay City. And when it did, it gave me 3 or 4 options. But the thing about it is, all those options would have ended me up at Hampton Inn, Bay City. You don't always have to do it the same way as some of the kids suggested. There's different ways to learn, perhaps.
There's different ways to
The
learn.
object is to learn things you need to know to reach your dreams and hopes that they have. The same thing goes for organizations.
And the same thing
School
goes
districts,
for
organizations.
organizations.
If you know where you want to get to, then you design to that. So that's a big principle here in what we do. So here's what we're going to do for the rest of the evening. We want to get your responses, and we're going to do that. We're going to do it in a couple of ways. If you're comfortable using your cell phone, pull that out. And while you're doing that, let me say for those that don't want to use their cell phone, you have comment cards, and you can write your responses on there. If you use if you write them, handwrite them, and when you're done tonight, you leave, please leave your comment card on the table for that. But if you have a cell phone, you're going to text the answers. So up there, where you're going to send it to is 22333. That's who you're sending it to, 22333. And down in the dialog box, down below the message, is going to be engaged to learn. So when you type engaged to learn down in the message box, hit send, and then you should get a message confirming that you're in Sheila's group. When you get that, if you start getting that message, would you raise your hand so I know you're getting it? Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8, 9. Okay, it looks like we're doing pretty good here. So I'm going to assume you're getting it. If you're not getting it, ask a neighbor to help you. And we should get everyone in. So, your first question tonight is, what do you think will shape the future of education in the next 20 years? What do you think about the next 20 years? 20 years ago would have been about 1999, right? And in 1999, the World Wide Web was 4 years old. We didn't have smartphones yet. We didn't have iPads. We didn't have social media. So lots changed in 20 years. So what do you think will shape the future of education in the next 20 years? Talk about it with your neighbor and text your responses.
Minutes. And your answers are going to show up here on the screen. Has anybody texted their response yet? Give me half a second. Okay, start to pop up. technology and professional caring teachers, technology, social media. Unknown technology, I guess that individual, I'm guessing they meant technology hasn't been invented yet. That's probably true. Or a lot of technology responses showing up here. So while those are popping up, let's get one or two people who would like to share what you were thinking, what you posted. Does anybody want to volunteer what you posted, what you did about this question? Anybody want to comment?
Hello, yay! Me and my partner were talking about how technology has influenced the classroom, how throughout that, I mean, we've gone a lot more digital. And so with that, like the whole classroom is changing how we teach, and the platforms are changing how we teach. And so technology is basically an obvious choice for most of us. But also culture, our culture is shifting so quickly. I mean, when culture has taken a generation to get established, now it's happening every 10 years. And so we're constantly shifting gears in America because of social media and because of everything that's changing. So culture impacts our school culture, and so therefore impacts our learning. And so with that, culture is a big indicator to how we teach, what we teach, and what's important to our society.
Thank you. Did you write culture on your response?
This is from our Spanish-speaking parents here. They would like for our schools to keep up with technology to ensure that our children are prepared for life. They would also like to see that our teachers are also well prepared and to be able to teach our children with technology.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, you see, there's a lot of responses around technology, and then one on effective, informed, responsive leadership. So a lot of agreement here in the group. So I love this photograph. We've had it on this slide for a long time. Hope to never take it off. And I told the group this morning, this picture reminds me when I was superintendent, and it was first day of school in my district, and we always visited campuses on the first day, and I was off to my first campus, and I saw this young family across the street in front of it, stop sign. And it was a husband and wife and a little boy, who one of the parents holding his hand and a baby in a stroller. I couldn't help it. I rolled my window down. I said, "Hey, are you all going to Walker Creek, which is a neighboring school?" And they go, "Yes, we're going down there. We're taking our son, who's a kindergartner, down to the school." And I said, "Well, listen, that's a great school, wonderful principal, great teachers. It's going to be a great experience for you. I just know it will." They didn't know who I was. I didn't tell them. I rolled my window out, wished them well. They thanked me, and they went on down the street. I drove away, and I couldn't get them off my mind. And I told my team about this, and I've talked about it over and over and over again over the years, because I was so taken by how it took a whole family to take that kindergarten to school that morning. They had this little boy with them for 5 years, and he'd never left them. And now they were walking down that street, and they're going to hand him over to people they didn't know and turn around and go back home. And I thought of what an act of faith that was. And I said to my team, I said, the trust that parents give us when they drop their most precious possessions off to us, and they're counting on us to fulfill their highest hopes and dreams for their child. Because on that morning the baby's born, and we just had a little grandson in our family here just recently. Think about this. Does a parent ever holding that child for the first moment after it's born, look in its eyes and say to that child, "I sure hope you turn out to be average"? Have you ever said that? You ever heard anyone say that? They have highest hopes and dreams. That's what they have. So that's what we want you to respond to. That's where we think we should begin. What are your highest hopes for your learners? And I always encourage the audience to think of their own children when they answer this question. What are your highest hopes and dreams for your child? Because I know they're not average. As a result of their time in school. Highest hopes. Find their passion. Have the life they deserve. Productive citizens, academically, socially, and emotionally prepared. I was struck by the kids talking how excited they were about new learning. I've seen them come up over and over again. I thought that was impressive. Okay. Responses are coming in. Some good stuff here. Happy and productive. Is there anything wrong with being happy in your life? Do you want that for your child? Okay, does anyone want to comment about what you put that was meaningful to you? Let's let you have this. Okay. Very good. Find their purpose. Yeah. Somebody else?
So I'm a recent graduate, and I just want her to be able to adapt to the world around her because it is changing so quickly, as was previously mentioned. And so she needs the skills to make those adaptations, and so we can build a foundation here, but she's going to have to take it and move it along and do with it what she needs to do with it as the world changes around her. But another thing is that I recently heard a lady speak about her children going to school, and she was very strong about the fact that they learned compassion for other people.
Excellent. Certainly, you do not expect that your child is going to see great change in their lifetime, and to be able to adapt to that means they won't be bewildered. Okay, very good. Find their purpose, be adaptable, have compassion for people. And you see a lot of wonderful things that are up here. Okay. So, we're going to talk about the context of education. This building here, represents a significant investment. I see them all over Texas. I travel all over Texas, and I see buildings that were built somewhere around 1910 to 1930 in almost every community I go to. And what that represents, you think about those communities who were mostly agricultural at the time, and the tremendous investment that they made to build that building. Before these buildings were built, there were a bunch of one-room schoolhouses out in the country. That's where my granddad went to school, and nobody really went past 8th grade. These schools represented a coming together of the community and a belief in their future and the importance of education to achieve that future and ensure the significance and permanence of their community. So we think about where education was back then, and we just heard about change and adaptability. Is that context changing in you? And I have a video here that I want to show you quickly about the changes, how education has changed in our last century.
Since the dawn of its existence, the purpose of public education has been fairly simple and straightforward. We want our kids to grow up to be happy, healthy, productive members of society. Even though our purpose in education has remained steadfast for over 150 years, a lot of things have changed. Remember the pioneer days? Well, probably not, but it looks something like this. During this time, people mostly lived in small rural communities and predominantly worked on family-owned and operated farms. So how do we educate and prepare children to function successfully in this environment? Well, unless you are rich enough to afford a private tutor, your children are educated in one of these, a one-room schoolhouse. Think about how well this maps the context of the day. School schedules matched the agrarian calendar, and students were educated in small, multi-age, cooperative learning groups. As students mastered the basics, they became apprentices, learning trades, crafts, and family business. We call this Education 1.0. Education imitated the lifestyle and work environments that people were engaged in at the time. But come the turn of the 20th century, society changed with the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. In a very short amount of time, the living and work environment of our society quickly changed. People began to flock to major urban epicenters where jobs and commerce were widely available. New inventions and modes of transportation meant the rapid expansion of our economy. No longer were people working in fields and family trades, but instead in manufacturing plants and assembly lines. So what did we do to prepare young people to meet the needs of the day? We created an industrial model of schooling, Education 2.0. If most people worked in this environment, then it made sense that we teach them in this one. In order for students to be successful in the industrial age, they needed to learn how to master repetitive tasks and how to do solitary work in a group setting. They needed to learn how to work in allotted segments of time and how to follow instructions from a manager who valued the quantity of work produced. It was an efficient model that perfectly met the needs of society. Everyone was expected to learn in the same place, at the same time, at the same rate, and in the same way. Today we find ourselves in a time very different than the days of the Industrial Revolution. The context of society, and in turn education, has rapidly changed. Most of us don't work in factories or on assembly lines, and yet our classrooms still look like this. Things are changing, and changing fast. Technology is advancing so fast that in just a few short years from now, we'll probably be laughing about how archaic smartphones were, the same way that we laugh about 8-track players and VCRs. There is little about our world that resembles the world of Education 2.0, and as great as technological advances are, it may not be enough to put a laptop or tablet in front of every student and continue to teach them as if we were preparing them for an assembly line. After all, a vast majority of employers surveyed identified collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking as very important skills. Unfortunately, only about 1/4 of job seekers were rated as excellent in the skills employers believe are most important. Perhaps it's time we ask ourselves if Education 2.0 still prepares young people to be happy, healthy, productive members of society. The context of our society is rapidly changing, but the purpose of education remains the same as it's always been. Today, our job is to educate young people to be successful in the 21st century, because it may not be too long from now that your morning commute looks more like this. There's a vast world of possibilities for young people today, and if we want them to be equipped with the skills necessary to be successful in Life 3.0, then it's probably time that we start talking about Education 3.0.
You know, that picture of him having that meeting, kind of a hologram, and I was thinking about what the Boeing CEO was talking about. He had meetings with his leaders in Boeing every day that they met around the world. Well, they didn't fly to Seattle to meet. So they were accustomed to those virtual meetings that they held, worked really well. And, you know, have this up here about technology. I was talking about the technologies that have happened in the last 20 years. I was thinking about this afternoon after talking about it this morning. I was thinking about my Apple Watch. I didn't want an Apple Watch. My wife had one. She said, "How would you like an Apple Watch?" I said, "My Citizen's great. I don't need an Apple Watch." And she said, "Well, I'll give you an Apple Watch." And now I never take it off. And it's a little disappointing now because there's a 3 series.
Okay, and I'm thinking I want a 5 series. And I get a little older, and I was telling my wife, I said, those 5 series watches, if you fall down, something happens to you, you fall down, your watch notices that, and after a few seconds, it tries to rouse you. And if it doesn't, it dials 911 and gives the EMS, and the young man wants to, what your location is, your latitude and longitude. Not to mention all the other things that happen. So, when I was a little boy, I used to read Dick Tracy comic strips, and they talked about that two-way wrist radio. You might remember that. And I finally got one. Throw down the watch. So, anybody else have an Apple Watch in here? Do you like it? Yeah, they're good. So you can probably think of a lot of ways. I remember when my dad was a principal, he brought in some innovative technology in the schools. It was film strips. Anybody know what a film strip is? Not many of you. How about mimeograph machines? What's the best thing about a mimeograph machine? The smell. Everybody says that. Those of you who've never smelled a mimeograph paper, you know what are they talking about. But you could not get your paper handed out to you as a student without pulling it out and sniffing, could you? And then the old reel-to-reel movie, when my wife was talking about how she liked the way that it might, finish, that thing would slap around the reel. So, well, that all was innovative one day, but today, and somebody was very thoughtful, thinking, what's really going to be the big thing is the technology that has been invented. I remember we were building a school building in Louisville, and we thought we were being very advanced, and I saw an Owens Corning deal showing about interactive walls, glass that is interactive, not a projector. And I said to the architect, are we building in infrastructure that we can put those in if we need them? Because we're not designing them right now because you're not ready. But I don't want a building that can't accommodate those when they come out. So here's some different industries that and showing where technology has really impacted that. Medicine has really been heavily impacted by technology, but all these have. And I'm not going to show this video, but CEOs from major companies around the world talking about the impacts on their companies and how they've adapted what they've become. In the video, it showed some changing work places, and here you see how work has changed. Even in factories, people tend to work in groups more, work groups rather than those Henry Ford kind of assembly lines. And I love this picture. I always like to ask the group, I'm going to ask you, what industry do you think this is? What? Finance? Airlines? Meteorology? NASA? Okay, it's a trucking company. That's why I love this photograph. It's a trucking company. It's a logistics firm. And they're routing trucks around the United States, maybe around the world. And this is always surprising for people because we don't think of trucking as being a high-tech industry, but it is today if you want to make it in that industry. So nobody's ever guessed trucks. And they often guess the things you came up with because that's what we think of when we think of technology. So here's a little data, and this is put out. It's very recent data. Average graduate today would change jobs 10 to 15 times, approximately every 4 years. 62% of millennials have considered starting their own business. In other words, they're wanting to be entrepreneurs, and 52% of college grads feel underemployed. Here are some jobs created in the last 5 years. I'm going to give you a second to read those and then tell me somebody who wants to volunteer what kind of stands out for you. What surprises you here? What catches your eye? Anyone? Okay, cybersecurity specialist. We're probably getting more used to that sort of thing because we know about the hacking attacks that take place with almost everyone. What else? Cyborg anthropologist. What in the world is that? Anybody have any ideas what that would be? Okay, cyborg robots, right? So it's the anthropology of robots. Imagine that. As robots get more sophisticated and do increasingly complex tasks, when you think about that artificial intelligence that, anybody remember 2001 Space Odyssey? There you go, hey. So how can we ensure that our students, the kids that come through, we heard the high hopes, and they had some high hopes here on the panel. How can we ensure that they're ready to be these things? And several of these things popped up on your highest hopes in the when I asked you to list those. And what do you think are the most important skills for learners to possess in order to thrive in their lifetimes? Parent over here whose child just graduated, she's concerned about her being adaptable enough to thrive in her lifetime. So talk to your neighbor and text in the context of the 21st century, their 21st century, not yours. What are the most important skills for learners to possess in order to thrive? What are the most important skills that they're going to need? Think about the things you've already thought about, written, and what we've just seen. Most important skills in order to thrive. Thrive. Thriving is kind of like that outcome of your highest hopes. It's not just surviving, it's doing well. Okay, lifelong learners pops up again, and problem solving skills, communication, planning long term, having a plan, flexibility and self-confidence, financial literacy, that's probably important. Solution-mindedness. Once again, we see adaptability, social skills, conflict management, being able to apply what they've learned. Once again, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. Does someone want to share out what they're thinking about and elaborate on it? Anybody want to comment? Some good stuff up there. Yes.
For mine, I was thinking adaptable. I've switched states since I've graduated college several times, and you have to be adaptable. I've learned a lot of things as a teacher. I've learned so much stuff on my own because I had the motivation. Like, to me, in order for them to be successful in the future, they have to be adaptable and self-motivated, learning by themselves in the sense of, hey, I want this skill, let me go get it by learning. So being able to create that engagement or that mindset that you're not stuck, you just have to keep adapting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment?
Just some point of information, when I learned to read, I learned through phonics. I taught in a building during my teaching years that was built in 1928, 1 year before the Depression. That was a good experience. It had beautiful Spanish architecture. Sometimes people ask, where do you work? Where do you work for? What's your job? But do they ever ask, are you happy?
Very good. And that's important, isn't it? Okay, so here's this cartoon. It says, I attended elite college that cost $50,000 a year, and the man behind the desk says, well, unfortunately, we're looking for people with good judgment. Some of you, I'm sure, know about these books, maybe not everyone in here, but Daniel Pink, for example, talks about, it's kind of important, how, traditionally we've used in public schools, really in all schooling, we've kind of focused on that left brain, that analytical side. Pink says in this century, it's right brain thinking that's going to make the difference, that people are looking for things that get them aesthetically. They value design. They're willing to pay more for something if it reaches them with emotion that's artistic. So, of course, behind anything that we consume, you have science involved with it. But what makes the difference and makes it valuable to people is that design element that comes from right brain thinking. So, a call for a shift, or at least a balance. We heard one of the students talk about the importance of art. Remember that? Saying how that mattered. And I think she wanted to study neuroscience, but she's talked about the importance of art being in her life. Tony Wagner's 7 survival skills, you can see those. I'm not going to read them to you, but notice a lot of that that's up there is also what you wrote just a moment ago. A lot of the things that you commented on are on Tony Wagner's skills. Have you read Tony Wagner? That's reading. Entrepreneurship shows up again down here. From Forbes, this was 2013, but it still holds a lot of weight. It's not that long ago. 10 top skills employers most want from Forbes, the ability to work in a team. It's important. How to make decisions and solve problems. Well, we saw problem solving on your list. Plan, organize, and prioritize. I saw the word prioritize up there. Communication is important, both inside and outside the organization. This is from the National Association of Colleges and Employers in 2016. Attributes employers want to see on a candidate's resume. Leadership is number 1 at 80%. Then ability to work in a team again. Communication skills, problem-solving skills, and then another communication skills. Strong work ethic is up there too. So, why put these up there? Why think about them? Well, if they're that important, are we designing them into what we do in the classroom? Is it part of that? Do we see it if we walk around and walk into classrooms, if these are what our young people are going to be needing when we walk into classrooms? Do we see evidence that we're teaching those kinds of things? So this was a VP with the Boeing Corporation. That's coincidental because I talked about Boeing earlier. He said there's not one specific thing that or skill people have to work for us, but I can tell you why we fire people: soft skills. And I remember when I was a superintendent of Tulsa Midway in Corpus Christi, and we had a huge refinery, the Coke refinery, paid 50% of our taxes. And they had a brilliant man. He's from Beaumont, by the way. He was head of the refinery. And he told me, he said, we can teach people the hard skills that we need in our refinery. What we're looking for is people that have these soft skills. I never forgot that. I was a young superintendent, really made an impact on me because I really admired him. Detailed list of the fastest growing jobs in Texas. You probably have a hard time reading these. I'll read them to you real quick. Number 1 is wind turbine technician. Are you surprised by that? That's becoming a pretty big deal. Statistician, interestingly, is number 2. Occupational therapy assistant, nurse practitioner, diagnostic medical sonographer, operations analyst, rod buster, physical therapist, assistant cardiovascular technician, and physician assistant. What strikes you with that list? Medical dominates it, doesn't it? Top five highest paying jobs in the local area. I asked them to double check this, whether it was this local area, maybe included Houston as well. But you see, it's got average salaries for these professions. Health's a big one over there in the middle. Art, design, entertainment, and sports media is a big one. I have another question for you.
didn't really come up so much with the kids this time in the morning. They talked about personalizing things. This question is kind of about that. I guess you could think about moving from education 2.0 to 3.0, from the industrial model to that model that's more influenced by technology. But think about what ideas will shift education to be less one-size-fits-all, to focusing more on creating more customized, I like that word better, personalized, customized learning experience that is flexible. Talk about that a little bit, and send some of your ideas on this. And what ideas will shift education from the same thing for everyone to something more personalized? Culture. Paying attention to culture. Someone decided to answer this by asking a question. Using technology to individualize plans, online learning, digital online learning, focusing on taking advantage of resources to get the best staff. One thing about as you're writing that in our university, and I think universities around the United States and the world are doing this. Did I miss something? All right, let's stop a second. Astros have two people on base. There's no outs at the bottom of the first. So that takes the pressure off, so you can go back to responding to the question I have. I can feel the tension building in the room, so thank you for posting that. In our university, and I think universities everywhere, go Astros. I'm a Ranger fan, and I'm rooting for the Astros. I taught my daughter, honey, she didn't like Texas A&M, she liked UT. And they were playing, I think, Iowa or somebody. And she said, I'm rooting for Iowa. I said, wait, that's not how we do it. It's okay to root for UT against A&M, but when any Texas school goes outside the state, you're rooting for that school. That's how that works. Anyway, we provide a lot of customization for our students through the use of online courses. They can have face-to-face courses, blended courses, and accelerated courses. I've just picked up 2 classes that I'm teaching Monday that'll be taught in 8 weeks as opposed to a full semester. So, trying to customize for them. That's not, there's a lot of other things we might be able to do, but that's a lot of flexibility. And I have kids that are in Del Rio, down in the valley, and in Houston in those classes. Okay, let's talk about teachers because they're very important. But think about teachers in the context of what we've been discussing and the things that you've been putting up here that you say are important and need to be considered. What skills do they need to prepare learners for their future? What skills do teachers need in the context of what we've been talking about? They need to be adaptable, this person says. Flexibility to meet various needs. They need to know how to use technology, compassionate, passionate, and encouraging. Those soft skills. That's, this, I certainly understand that. Long-term preparation for short-term adjustments. That's always been true, and I learned that my first couple of weeks as a young first-year teacher, how important that was. Compassionate, culturally aware, flexible learning environments. Anyone want to comment on this? This one. Skills teachers need. Anyone have something they want to elaborate on
Speaking of the office, she said that in her parent-teacher conferences, you can tell when a teacher likes what she's doing and likes being in the classroom and is passionate about her work.
Very good. Thank you so much. Can I see a hand over here? Okay. All right. Out of the box thinking, knowing what's happening in the business world, instructional leaders as mentors, not managers. Can I say that something that really struck me as well about that Boeing Ford CEO? Here's what he said CEOs need to be. Facilitators and coaches. Isn't that amazing? CEOs today need to be facilitators and coaches. He said, not command and control people, which goes against what people have traditionally thought of as CEOs. I think it struck me as an educator, as we've been talking for a few years now about that teachers need to become facilitators, and more recently using the word coach. But this gentleman, who does not come from the education world at all, said that that's what big corporation CEOs need to be, the very same thing. I thought that was really interesting. So we're going to talk about systems. I asked the kids to think about that. Here's some examples of systems. There's many other systems. School districts are very complex organizations. So there's many systems in those, but these are some that we're familiar with. So think about systems. And if you think there's any that might need to change, given our conversation, to prepare learners for their futures. Diverse interactive classrooms. Flexible school day or school week. Flexible school hours. There was a plea this morning from a student to start high school at 10 a.m. But I read recently there was a school district somewhere, I thought it was in Texas, but somebody said it was California, they changed their schedule to do that based on the research on high school kids' circadian clock. Have some influence on their personal education, and project-based learning versus testing. Okay, number of things there. Anybody have a comment that they want to elaborate on this one? Okay. My watch is keeping track of my steps. I'm getting some in. Close my ring. I think you will.
Okay. A young lady earlier said that she'd rather see more, especially for the younger kids, less transition and more self-contained classroom. I think she had a valid point, but what I'd like to let you consider though is that I've done self-contained and I've done a partitioned classroom, and I've noticed that when I have a partition right now, I'm teaching just one subject. And when I just teach one subject, I can lesson plan so well for that subject. I can go out and find the best lesson for it, prep all the materials to have like perfectly interactive lessons, and then I can do it 3 times, get better each time. When I have 5 classes to prep for, I cannot prep as well. And it's the kids, even though I have the same kids and there's time wasted during transition, I'm not giving them as effective a lesson as when I could do it just partition. So consider that when you're thinking about whether or not to do partition classes.
Thank you. That's some good points. I thought the young lady made some good points as well. She's mainly talking about younger kids, wasn't she? I see. Okay. Does that say the Astros lead 2-0? Okay. Look, spirits rise. And I'm not going to keep you that much longer, but at least you know they're winning. So, in regard to technology and the learning environment, how should technology be used to support or improve learning? We've seen in some of your earlier responses, you acknowledge the importance of technology pretty consistently, but comment a little bit about how you think it should be used. That can be used for individualization. As a supplement, a tool, not replacing the teacher, but supplementing, or maybe enriching or enhancing. Production as opposed to consumption. Virtual trips. When I was at Louisville, we implemented a program that's kind of hard to find Mandarin language teachers. But the Mandarin language is pretty important today, isn't it? There's just not a lot of teachers. And one of the problems of teaching foreign languages is finding people that know the language. And we implemented this program. There's a book called Disrupting Class by Clayton Christian that's been out a few years. But he talked about how technology, his prediction was that the schools would know about business. He used languages as an example. But what we did is we wanted to teach Mandarin, and we started this program where we implemented technology. And the kids went into a virtual world. They all had avatars. Their teachers were Chinese teachers. They lived in China. They too had avatars. The teachers stayed up at night because our kids, their time frame's exactly opposite. And so they taught our kids Mandarin Chinese, when it was nighttime in China, day here. And they would take them around a virtual China to give them experiences in China. So we experimented with that. It solved the problem for us in terms of not being able to have, and they were certified teachers in the state of Texas. They're TA certified. So those things will probably become more common. Skyping guest lecturers, presenters. You may be familiar with iTunes University and its K-12 version, where they have the top teachers and professors around the world teaching on subjects, and that's free. So here's a cartoon, and you have these animals, and the person's saying for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam, climb that tree. Who do you think will have the biggest problem climbing that tree? The fish. Who will have the easiest time climbing that tree? I thought monkey until someone said bird, and we got a bird back there. That bird may be a little, monkey's really good student, isn't it? But that bird's good. The bird's not what? Well, that's a good point.
She said the bird's not climbing. But, maybe that we can count that as my story about using the GPS. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Isn't that old saying? Certainly you get up in that tree pretty fast. That might be using a new paradigm. So obviously it's a pretty good joke about what we ask kids to do from an assessment standpoint. And some may be better for certain reasons than others around that. Here's a graph. What do you notice about this graph without noting what it's about? The two bars, the different color bars go in opposite directions from each other, right? Well, the red bar is about countries that did well on the PISA International Math Exam, and the blue bar is those who do well in teaching entrepreneurial ability. So there's an inverse relationship between teaching entrepreneurial skills versus being good taking an international math test. So you may not be able to see it, but number one on the math is Singapore. Anybody surprised about that? Number two is Korea, number three is Taiwan, and number four is Finland. Where's the United States here? Well, here's the United States, and what do you notice about the United States? Real good about teaching entrepreneurialism, creativity, design, and that didn't fare as well on math. But I like to think and I like to point out what a good job the U.S. has done over the years of being the leading developer of medicines, new products, technology, and all of that. And does that come from more from their creativity? But kind of an interesting chart. So this is a question. We've got two more questions for you to answer. Assessments come up. We've heard a little bit about them tonight, some of your responses. We've been taking high stakes tests in Texas since 1984. There's a lot of controversy over them. And oftentimes we hear, especially teachers, say they don't like them. Lately, parents have been getting a little noisier on that. But I said to my staff a couple of times, I said, okay, let me ask you this. What if the next day, what if tomorrow I come in and say, we're not going to give it a STAR test? And the end of course, we're not giving it, it's over. And I heard some cheers. And I said, well, what would you do in place of that? Then all of a sudden it got a little bit more difficult. Because even though they might not have been happy with it, they understood it and been a part of their lives, and to think about replacing it, all of a sudden seemed like a difficult problem. What would they replace it with? Parents are used to it. They get the reports both on their own children as well as on the district every year, and they may not fully understand those reports. The question is, on the A and F system, what does an A really mean? What does a B really mean? But nonetheless, we're used to it. Well, we're going to answer. You're going to get a chance to answer this question. I guess you're not going to get a chance. Yeah, there it is. Well, we don't have a response for it. I double checked that to be sure that was in, but I guess we moved it. But I want you to think about it. That's going to come up with a design team. And as a community and people that are participating in the school district, and those of you that are in the school district, that's a good question to think about. And basically, let me say this before we go on to this next question. In answering that question, it really comes down to what is meaningful to you what's meaningful to you that would tell you that this school district is doing a good job on the things that matter to you that says BCISD is a quality district. What are those things? And I'll give you an example from Louisville ISD, something that the community is really proud of, and I'm proud of it too, and I'm still proud of it. They really value the fine arts. And one of those things they valued a lot was marching band. They were good at it. A couple of years ago, they won first, second, third place in 6A marching band. That's never been done. And as a superintendent, there's one thing I knew for sure is don't mess with the arts in Louisville ISD. It mattered.
and report, because that's something you can assess. So I heard the commissioner speak one time. An orchestra played in Austin, the Midwinter Conference. He got up and he said, "Wasn't that wonderful? I just wish we could test it." And I wanted to say to the commissioner, you just heard the test. It was the performance. And we see that on Friday nights right across the street over here in the football stadium, don't we? So that's assessment every Friday night. And there's a lot of people assessing up in the stands, right? So let's answer this question. How can business, this is an important one, how can businesses and community organizations work in concert with Bay City ISD to better prepare students for their future? How can businesses and community organizations work with the school district to better prepare students for their future? That's a big deal. But has not traditionally been an easy thing to solve over the years. Internships, mentors, volunteers, recognitions, students getting out into the community, employers allowing workers to come into the schools and work there, offering employment opportunities. Community service has really become a big deal, and that might be something that I know the Dallas professional soccer team, a student from a elementary school partnered with them, felt like the FC Dallas was wasting too much stuff. They didn't have a good recycling program, and so the Stars worked with that elementary student to develop a new recycling program, and they did. And the FC Dallas soccer team implemented it at their stadium. What a great example of a partnership with business. And what a great opportunity for that young person. Industries paying salaries for CTE teachers, that's innovative. Probably take a little work to figure out how to do that. It reminds me of a meeting I had with the Commissioner of Education a number of years ago, similar to that. So some good ideas here. All those are being captured. They're in a database right now. Everything that you put down, and if you wrote paper responses, be sure to leave them. But all of this stuff, if you texted it, it is in our database. We will take all this data and we're going to disaggregate it and graph it, and it will be shared and used by the design team. And that was our last question. Once again, here's our process for what the work we're going to be doing with you. And again, for the next 3 weeks, the survey will be up. I want to remind you, thanks for coming, number one. And secondly, tell your friends and neighbors about that survey that's still up, same questions, and encourage them, family, friends, church members, to take that survey because the district wants your feedback. The district's going to a lot of trouble inviting the community to participate in helping them design for your children's future. So I encourage you to share this out with your neighbors in your community because that survey is still available. But I want to thank you for being here. Again, here's the dates for what we'll be doing. Focus groups are going to be tomorrow, the next day. And the design team starts work in November, and they will work through January. The district at this time is putting together that design team, and so that will be about 35 to 40 people who represent the diversity of this district, both staff members as well as community members. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Scott, but I just want to thank you for being here. What a great job you did in your thinking. Thank you very much. I look forward to working with you.
Let me thank Dr. Waddell one more time. Let's do it again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. I always like to start with the district leadership. I want to thank our two trustees who are here in the morning and this evening, Trustee Tennant and Trustee Starline. Thank you all for being here and for your leadership. Thank the teachers who have come out as well to provide input. More importantly, thank you parents for the time that you've taken out of your busy schedules to be here to give us feedback. We want this to be community-based. We're seeking your input, and we really and truly want to create a shared vision around what we're going to do for our school district, and most importantly for our kids. Once again, thank you all for being here. Let's thank the staff. Allison is spearheading this entire project. So thank her. And again, you all have a good evening. I think it's what's the score? Trustee Sparrow, I'm pretty sure you put that up there. What's the score? 2-1 is the score. Let's go Stros. Thank you all.